We thought the house was just old, creaky, forgotten. But it hadn't forgotten us. It remembered every name, every scream, every family it ever swallowed. And now, it's my turn to speak from inside the walls. Part 1. We didn't choose this house. We didn't choose this house. Not really. It came to us through a letter no one remembered receiving, signed by a lawyer whose name brought no results online, stamped with a county seal that didn't match the state we live in. My mother said it was from a cousin of her father's brother, or something equally vague. My father just shrugged, said it was free, said it was a sign. I didn't argue. Maybe I should have. The first time I saw it, the house looked like it was trying to hide. Tucked between two hills in the thinnest part of Cypress Hollow, with trees that leaned just a little too far inward, like they were whispering, judging, listening. The shingles on the roof curled upward like they'd once screamed. The windows were almost completely covered in dust, except for one in the attic. That one was clean, crystal clear, like someone had been watching. Still, we moved in. The key worked on the first try, which was strange considering the rust. The door let out a groan, but not the kind of groan that comes from hinges. This was lower, like the air itself was exhaling. I stepped inside first. I had to. My parents were busy arguing about what boxes should go where, and Lydia was trying to get her tablet to load, even though there was no signal out here. The air in the house was still, too still, like it had been holding its breath since the last family left, or since they were swallowed. The furniture was already here, covered in sheets, yeah, but arranged, like someone had just gotten up to stretch, like someone had known we were coming. My dad joked about it, said maybe we had squatters. That was before the paperwork. We found it sitting on the mantel, a folder full of crinkled, yellowing pages, the deed, the tax records, even family photos from the 1950s with unfamiliar faces that looked just close enough to ours to be unnerving. What stood out most was the signature. It just said, Galloway. No first name, no date, just our surname, scrawled in a messy, ink-heavy loop. I asked if we had any relatives who had lived out here. My mother hesitated, just for a second before saying no. Then Lydia screamed from upstairs. We all ran. She was in the attic, sitting in a triangle of sunlight, holding a doll. The kind of doll that shouldn't exist anymore. Porcelain head, glassy black eyes, mouth too small and too red. The dress was stitched from grey cotton, but parts of it were sticky, like something had leaked from the walls and dried onto it. Lydia smiled and said, "She's my first friend." We laughed nervously. We shouldn't have. That night we ordered pizza and sat in the living room like it was any other move-in. My dad put on a movie. My mum was already asleep in the chair. But I couldn't stop staring at the walls. They were too perfect. No cracks, no nail holes, no stains. But every so often, the wallpaper would ripple, just slightly, like it was breathing. At midnight, I went upstairs. Lydia was already asleep. The doll clutched to her chest like it had always belonged there. I stayed awake longer than I should have, scrolling through my phone, trying to find any records of this place. The address didn't map. The county registry showed an empty field here. I finally passed out. And then the whispering started. I sat up straight in bed, heart pounding. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't a dream. It was coming from the vent above, my bed. Whispers. Long, careful ones. Female. Familiar. I got up and leaned closer. The whispering stopped, then came back, more clearly. We used to hide under the porch when it rained. My daddy hated the thunder, said it knocked loose the memory in his ears. I froze. That was my mother's voice. That was her childhood story. Something she told me once, years ago, when I was little. When she cried because she couldn't remember. Her own father's laugh, but I never recorded it, never told anyone else, and yet, here it was, whispering through the walls. I pressed my ear against the wallpaper. breath held, and the voice on the other side kept talking. He used to braid my hair and call me his little ghost. Said I vanished when I cried. The whisper grew sharper, closer, not broadcasted, spoken directly into the wall. And that's when I realized the voice wasn't repeating a memory, it was reciting it, word for word, the same rhythm, the same hesitation in her breath. I stepped back, shaking. Then the wallpaper twitched, just once, like something behind it had flinched. We didn't choose this house, but I think it chose us, and I think it already knows everything we've forgotten. Part 2. The rooms that rearrange themselves. It started with the hallway. A turn that used to end at the bathroom now led to the linen closet. The linen closet was on the other side of the house. I know it was. I counted my steps, retraced them, again, always winding up somewhere new. Sometimes the stairs creaked from the wrong direction, like they weren't where they were supposed to be. I told myself it was just settling. A house this old creaks, groans, shifts. Maybe I just hadn't memorized the layout. But I'm not an idiot. And I'm not the only one who noticed. 3 days ago, or maybe 4, we sat down for breakfast. My dad asked if anyone had seen his red watch, the one he wore during the move. Mom said, "You wore it on Sunday. You were watching that old Western." Dad frowned. That was Friday. Lydia looked up from her cereal and said, "Today is Tuesday." I checked my phone. No signal, battery blinking red. Time, 9:47 a.m. No date, just blank squares where the calendar should have been. I didn't say anything. But later that night, I wrote it down in the journal I keep in my backpack. The only thing I really trust anymore. I tucked it under my mattress before bed. When I woke up, it was gone. In its place, on my desk, was the same journal, I thought. But when I flipped through the pages, the ink was different, smudged, slightly faded. The handwriting was almost mine, but not quite. It read like I had written it in a rush, or under pressure. They don't know what the house wants, but it's trying to tell me. The walls are shifting, stretching, like muscles flexing after sleep. I think it's building something. I never wrote that. I checked my old entries. They were there, but fragmented, interspersed with pages that didn't make sense. One said, simply, "Don't open the blue door. We don't have a blue door," or "We didn't." The living room was the worst. Every time I walked into it, it was longer. Not like, this seems bigger today. No, it was longer, measurably, visibly. The couch was farther from the fireplace than it was yesterday. The rug used to touch the bottom of the bookshelf. Now there was a full foot of floorboard showing. When I mentioned it, my dad shrugged. "Old houses settle weird," he said. "Maybe our eyes are just adjusting." But it wasn't just my eyes. I stood in the doorway and threw a tennis ball to the far wall. It used to bounce back in 1 second. Now it took 2, and when it rolled back, it left a wet streak behind it. The same day, Lydia came to me with a piece of paper. She looked pale, like she hadn't slept. "I made a map," she said, "like in a game, so I don't get lost." It was a floor plan, sketched in colored pencil. The kitchen, the bedrooms, the attic, all marked carefully. But in the bottom right corner was a room I didn't recognize. A square she'd labeled, in red crayon, "The room with no lights." I stared at it. "What is this?" She looked at me like it should have been obvious. "It's the room behind the cold wall." "What cold wall?" "The one that hums. It says my name sometimes." That night, I followed her map. I crept down the hallway past the linen closet, past the stairs, past the door that used to lead to the basement. Except now, there was another door, right where she'd drawn it. Old, Blue. No knob, just a smooth, wooden slab with peeling paint and 6 long scratches down the front, like someone had tried to dig their way out. I touched it. Cold. Not like air-conditioned cold. Dead cold. Like freezer meat or stone pulled from deep earth. I pressed my ear against it. No sound. Then, just as I started to step back, a single word hissed through the wood. Ellis. My name. Not whispered. Exhaled. The door creaked. Not. From me. It opened on its own. We didn't choose this house, but it's growing into us. Room by room. Name by name. Part 3. Everyone looks like they've forgotten something. There's a moment when you forget something small, a misplaced word, a face you haven't thought about in years, and it doesn't bother you. But here, it feels like forgetting is contagious. Like it starts with a name and ends with everything else. It began with my mother. She was folding laundry at the kitchen table when I asked about her maiden name. A stupid question. I don't even know why I asked. She paused mid-fold, looked at the sweater like it was unfamiliar. Then she laughed. But it wasn't the kind of laugh that says, "Oh, I'm being silly." It was the kind of laugh that tries to keep panic down in the throat. She said, "Ellis, it's right there. On my old journals. On my diploma. Right?" I waited. Then she whispered, "Can you look for it? I want to remember it before your father gets home." He walked in 5 minutes later and asked why the checkbook was in someone else's handwriting. It was his. Later that night, I found Lydia standing in the hallway outside my room. Eyes open, but not awake. She was talking. Low, whispery, like she was on the edge of hearing something only she understood. She said, "We're just new layers. That's why the house breathes. It has to exhale the old ones first." Then she blinked, looked up at me, and asked where her room was. Her door was 2 feet behind her. I started digging. I don't know what I thought I'd find. Maybe a record, some old documents, a forgotten will. Proof that we hadn't always lived here. Something I could hold and say, "See? This came before us." What I found was worse. In a drawer behind the fireplace, one I could swear wasn't there before, was a photo album, brown leather cover, cracked down the spine, with a brass clasp that stuck when I tried to open it. Inside, faces, families, sitting in this same house, same rug, same wallpaper, same everything. Some were black and white, others slightly color-tinted, like the film had aged. Each photo was labeled, not with dates, not with locations, just names, all the same name, Galloway. I flipped faster, different faces, different hair, different decades, but always the same surname. I stopped on a page in the middle. There was a man, thin, sharp-featured, standing beside a girl with wide, pale eyes. They stood in front of the staircase we use every day. The girl was holding a doll that looked just like the one Lydia found in the attic. I turned the page and froze. It was me. Older, maybe late 20s, same nose, same chin, same freckle under the eye, standing in the upstairs bedroom window, the same one I'd looked through that morning, only in the photo. I wasn't looking out, I was looking back, right into the lens, wearing clothes I've never owned, and smiling, but it wasn't joy, it was recognition. I ran to the bedroom, threw open the door, stared out the window. Nothing, just trees, wind, the quiet roll of the hollow outside. Then I saw it. Not a reflection, a presence. Faint, barely there. Like my shadow forgot to attach itself and just stayed behind. Watching, waiting. We don't just live in this house. We're layered into it, stacked on top of people who looked like us, sounded like us, were us. The house isn't haunted. It's hungry, and what it eats is who we are. Piece by piece, memory by memory, until one day I'll blink and forget what I was even afraid of. Part 4. The house remembers better than we do. There are Bibles under the stairs, 6 of them, each one different. Leather-bound, cracked spines, some with gold-trimmed pages, and others stained in ways I don't want to think about. I found them by accident, or maybe the house wanted me to. The stairwell creaked louder than usual yesterday. I reached to check for wood rot, and a plank pulled away like it was never nailed down. Behind it, hollow space, just dark enough to feel like it goes deeper than it should. I reached in. What I pulled out wasn't dust. It was memory. Each Bible had names scrawled in the front. Genealogies, dozens of entries, all Galloways. Some names were elegant, etched in careful cursive. Others looked like they were scratched in with a nail. A few had been crossed out. Not once. Over and over. Dozens of lines carved so deep they tore through the paper. And some names were repeated. Same name, same year, 2 different people. Don't know what that means, but I think the house does. There were other things in the hollow, objects that didn't belong to us, but felt like they should have. A cracked ceramic cup, a velvet shoe, a red bow with something sticky clinging to it. And then a small cotton dress, grey and torn at the hem. Lydia was with me. She didn't speak at first, just stared at the dress like it was trying to speak. Then she whispered, "That's mine, from before." Before what? She didn't say. She just reached out and touched it gently, like petting a sleeping animal, and the lights flickered. Things are slipping. Words, meals, time. My mother made dinner last night and burst into tears because she couldn't remember what she was cooking. My father tried to write a check and didn't recognize the signature on his own ID. And me, I've started writing down phrases I don't remember saying. They're on the walls, the mirror, inside my journal. One was scratched into the glass on the oven door. The house will carry what you drop. I was looking for something familiar when I found the cassette, buried beneath a pile of broken furniture in the basement. An old recorder beside it, still warm, which doesn't make sense. We haven't had power down there in days. I played it anyway. It crackled at first, a hiss, then static, like rain on a tin roof, then a voice. My voice, older, cracked, unsteady, like someone on the edge of remembering too much. This is Ellis Galloway. If you're hearing this, you made it farther than I did. You stayed past the 4th door. I shouldn't have. I thought I had to know. But knowing's how it gets in, how it writes over you. You think you're leaving notes. You're just giving it new verses. There was a gasp, like something breathing through me. Then, don't stay past the 4th door. The tape ended, but the air around me didn't move. It was like the house was holding its breath again, waiting. I ran upstairs, counted the doors, bedroom, bathroom, Lydia's room, closet. 4. Just 4. But in the hallway now, there's a 5th. It wasn't there yesterday, wasn't on Lydia's map. It's closed, no knob, just a keyhole. But when I press my ear to the wood, I hear something scratching on the other side. And it sounds like my name being written, again and again. Not spoken, carved. Like the house is rehearsing me, preparing the next Ellis. Because even if I forget, the house always remembers. Part 5. We are not the first course. The crawl space wasn't supposed to open. It was sealed tight the day we moved in, nailed shut, buried behind a false panel in the laundry room, just beyond the humming wall that never went quiet. But today, it was ajar. I don't know how long it had been like that. Maybe it had always been waiting. The wood groaned under my knees as I crawled through. It smelled like wet stone and sour milk. The beam from my flashlight was the only thing that moved until it hit something pale. Bone. Not a pile, not a skeleton. Rows, laid out carefully, like some kind of display. each set wrapped in fabric so thin it flaked away when I touched it. A dozen small bundles, maybe more, child-sized, some still, had teeth. Each one had a tag, string bound to the cloth. Tiny, handwritten initials, faded but legible. I recognized the letters. They matched the names in the photo album. The scratched out ones, the forgotten ones, the ones the house had digested. I stumbled back, gagging, crawled out as fast as I could. My hands were shaking, my throat burned, and when I stood, there was someone waiting at the door, an old woman, grey dress, blank eyes, thin smile. No car in sight, no sound of footsteps on the gravel. She didn't speak, just looked past me, into the house, as if it were calling her. Then she said, and I will never forget the rasp in her voice. Still feeding, I see. She turned, walked away, not toward the road, toward the woods. That night, the house breathed, not a creak, not a shift, a breath. It rose beneath me, through the mattress, the floors, into my chest. My ribs expanded without permission. My heart beat too slowly. I heard Lydia scream. I bolted down the hall. Her door was open, the bed empty. Only the doll sat waiting, smiling up at me with a crack through its face. I screamed her name. No answer, just the sound of walls shifting, thick and wet. Then I heard her, behind the plaster, a whisper, faint, giggling. I pressed my ear to the wall. It's warm in here. I froze, then clawed at the wallpaper, tore through the drywall. My hands bled, nails split. And there, beneath the surface, a hollow, a pocket, a cavity the size of a small child. Lydia, folded like a prayer, eyes wide, pupils huge, still, breathing, smiling. Her lips moved. It's warm in here. I reached for her. My hands passed through something slick and unseen. The wall pulsed, recoiled, and closed, sealing her away like a mouth that had finally chewed. I screamed, pounded, begged, but the wall only breathed again. We are not the first course, and we won't be the last, because the house is not haunted. It's alive. It chews with staircases, it swallows with doors, and now it has Lydia, and I don't know if I can get her back. Part 6. I can still hear them in the walls. I tried to burn it. I really did. I found the old gas can in the shed, drenched the floorboards, the baseboards, the door frames. I lit the match with shaking hands, but the flame didn't catch. It hissed and vanished, like the air itself swallowed it. The next match broke in half, the third dissolved, and then I knew. The house wasn't just alive, it was listening. I stood in the center of the living room, gas fumes curling around my legs, and I screamed. Screamed for Lydia, for my mother, for the version of my father who used to hum while making coffee. No one answered. No one even looked up. My family sat in a loop, each in a different room, each repeating a single phrase. My mother stared at the wall, whispering, I used to have a dog. I used to have a dog. I used to... My father turned a pen over and over in his hands, muttering, Who wrote this? Who wrote this? Who wrote... Lydia's room was sealed now. I couldn't open the door, but I could hear the doll inside, singing, and I could hear her, humming along. That's when the walls started to shift. Not outward, not visibly, but inside, a pressure, like something was growing, or remembering too much. I ran to the hallway, counted the doors. There were 6 now. I only knew the purpose of 3. The others pulsed, beckoned. Each door was a mouth, each one full of names I hadn't earned. I went back to the crawl space, tore out the Bibles, ripped through the photo albums, burned everything I could find. But the faces stayed, on the walls, in the floorboards, in the reflections that no longer waited for my permission. The house spoke to me, not with words, with memory. It showed me every birthday I ever forgot, every moment I overlooked, every detail of every Galloway that came before me, their voices, their smells, their laughter, their screams. It remembered for me. Because if it didn't, who would? Who would remember Lydia's laugh, now that her real one was gone? Who would remember my mother's middle name, now that she's too far down to reach it? The house offered me a choice, one I never saw coming. Stay and remember them forever. Every detail, every scent, every breath. Live in its walls, become its echo, and carry the memory no one else will, or leave, and forget them. Forget Lydia. Forget my parents. Forget that I ever had a family. Wipe it clean. Escape. But hollow. I didn't answer right away. I sat on the stairs. Same spot I found the hidden hollow. Same step that groaned whenever Lydia skipped it. And I cried. For the first time since we moved in, I made my choice. The house is quiet now. Calm. The wood has stopped creaking. The rooms have stopped rearranging. Even the mirrors have stilled. From the outside, it looks normal. Peaceful even. A new family moved in yesterday. Smiling. Happy. Unaware. They don't know yet. They can't feel it. But soon they'll hear it. The soft thrum in the walls. The echo behind the bathroom tiles. The hum beneath the stairs. Because I'm still here. And I remember. All of them. And I'll keep remembering. As long as it takes. Welcome home. If you heard whispers while watching, you're not alone. The house remembers everyone who listens. If you want more stories like this, ones that crawl under your skin and stay there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There's another door waiting to open. Click the next video. It might already be watching you.